Welcome to UNCAGED. Today we're speaking with Ryan Nettles, and we will be talking a lot about the world of finance, the world of fintech, the world of M&A. Ryan is the managing partner at Guru Capital, and he has the privilege of living in lovely Switzerland, but certainly playing a big role in terms of the future of financial services and also really what companies like his are doing in that fintech and advisory space for fintech companies. But before we get into the full Guru Capital story, Ryan, tell us a little bit about you and your career.
Oh, well, starting from the beginning, I'm an American living in Switzerland. So I was born in Chicago, near Chicago, born and
Woohoo!
raised. Yes. I didn't come traditionally from finance. I studied pre-veterinary medicine at university. And then I worked in animal agriculture for about 5-6 years. And then I got into finance, out of more or less reading a book about trading. And I had, when I was about 26 years old, I moved down to Houston, Texas, and then became a futures broker. And like 4 years later, I moved to Boston and I got into FX and worked for a bank there. And then from Boston, I moved to Switzerland. In 2010, moved to Switzerland, worked for a bank here called Swissquote. I was the head of the FX trading and market strategy department within the bank. Very good time to be there. Also in Switzerland, the bank was growing quite well, and I learned a lot while I was there. And then made a decision to leave the bank after about 10 years there, and co-founded Guru Capital in 2019. And Guru Capital, we are basically we do M&A advisory in fintech, and also we're an investment company. So
That's awesome. I mean, with Guru Capital, tell me a little bit more. So you are a founder of this company. Yep. Tell me a little bit of that whole story of founding the business and where you've gotten to today.
Well, there was another colleague of Swissquote. We founded the company, and we came up with the idea, the strategy for Guru Capital. We both were passionate about fintech, and we noticed there were some regulatory changes that were happening at that time, mm-hmm. that were impacting one of the verticals of fintech, and specifically CFD brokerage in Europe and the UK, where the regulators were strengthening the restrictions that retail CFD brokers were able to offer retail customers in terms of leverage restrictions, promotion restrictions, just doing a lot more things to, improve investor protections and things like this measures. And so we analyzed the market and noticed that there was quite a few of these CFD brokers spread out throughout Europe and the UK, and came up with this strategy to acquire, consolidate the small to medium sized businesses that were active, who were at most impacted by these regulatory changes back then. So we set up Guru Capital. We were seeking capital. We found a company in the U.S. that funded our strategy. So they set up a fund, and we were the advisor to that fund, and that's how we launched Guru Capital. And then we basically started sourcing opportunities, doing all the due diligence on these opportunities, negotiating the pricing, and ultimately bringing these opportunities to the fund, and more or less they would decide if they wanted to agree to acquire it or not. And then once they did, we would go out and integrate these companies together. So we did about 4 deals in the last 4 years, for this fund. And then early this year, they decided to sell all the assets off, So it was a good experience. Learned a lot. It was a lot of fun during that time, and we did it during COVID. It was very interesting. We couldn't actually, when we did our first acquisition, we weren't able to actually travel to the company where we purchased. So that was quite interesting. But luckily, they had a good business continuity plan, and everyone was remote working during COVID. So luckily, it worked in our favor.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. So what is Guru Capital focused on right now?
So since our exit in February, more or less, we're looking to launch another fintech project, very similar. We've identified, there's more, you've probably seen the news out about a lot of things with crypto and the increased regulations there, especially in the US. And so we're looking to more or less build a, like a super investment app that, supports active and passive investors. And we're going to be focusing on building this platform through M&A. So we're going to be targeting CFD brokers, securities brokers, crypto exchanges. This is where the regulators are mostly impacting these types of companies, where we can actually acquire these companies at pretty good valuations, because there's just an oversupply of these companies at the moment. So that's a project we're gonna start probably in Q1 next year.
Yeah. No, it's really interesting. It's interesting because there was so much discussion about that world over the last couple of years, and it's been a roller coaster ride to kind of keep up with all the changes in the crypto space and the blockchain space. But there's no doubt that underpinning it all, the core technologies are playing a huge role in evolving the financial marketplace as we know it. I mean, when you guys are looking out in the marketplace, what does it look like right now? What are the big trends that you're seeing today?
Well, I mean, our idea is that you still see a lot of investors using multiple platforms to manage their financial assets. They're using an app or a platform to manage their banking and payment side. They're using a brokerage app to manage their investment side, and other apps to manage other types of financial assets. So, and we noticed also a lot of these fintech companies who are trying to basically focus on a certain vertical. They are typically loss making, and more or less, and looking back pre-COVID, more or less the trend was, that a lot of investment firms were investing in these type of companies, were focused on user growth mainly, not worried about necessarily profitability and revenues. Now, since after COVID, and these fintech companies are not getting to profitability, even though they're acquiring lots of users, we're seeing more of a trend of investment firms now looking at these fintech companies, when are you going to become profitable? And so a lot of them are still not profitable, and they're struggling to get profitability. So but they're only focused on one certain vertical, of fintech. They're not looking to bring in other types of services within their platform. And so this is where we're coming in, where we're going to build this platform by acquiring companies in these different verticals and integrate them into one single platform. And obviously, we're targeting profitable revenue generating businesses to make it interesting for, obviously, investors to come in and invest in our project.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting one to see the status of the investment space in general. I mean, we do live in this world right now where interest rates still are on the rise. I know that there's much more of a focus on profitability, profitable companies. But I mean, if you were to say, what are the 5 key characteristics that you are looking at right now in a company, what would those be?
Well, initially, when we launch our strategy, we're looking for 3-year revenue growth, 3-year revenue performance. We're looking at profitability. So we're looking at companies that are already established, have customers, have the structure in place, and are revenue generating and profitable, and are focused on one certain vertical. that we're targeting. And yeah, so that's the main thing, is revenue and profitability. That's our first thing. If they're not that, we're not so much interested in that. We're disqualifying that type of opportunity. We may look at that kind of opportunity when we already have a foundation. So our foundations are basically, the first step is we're acquiring a regulated company with clients and revenues and profitability. The secondary acquisitions will look at companies that are loss-making, but have a lot of user base and stuff like that. So we'll acquire the assets of the company and integrate those companies within the existing platform. What else? Jurisdictions is a focus. We look at the jurisdictions that we're interested in expanding to. Our focus at the moment is looking at Europe, UK, and the US. We're looking at what licenses they have. Do they have the necessary licenses that we need to operate or our business?
What type of scale do they need to have, Ryan? I mean, let's say just like top line revenue.
We're targeting the SMEs. So we're targeting the ones that are mostly impacted by regulatory change, that don't have the balance sheet and financial resources to basically withstand any regulatory impact. So these are companies typically 20 million in revenue and less.
Okay. All right. So that kind of gives you the range of where you guys are playing. And it's always interesting to me because you certainly have an incredible breadth of knowledge about the space, and you're active in it, and you've been in this financial world, but you kind of gravitated into this area of innovation. I could clearly see you're a creative guy trying to integrate things together. But why is it that you do what you do? What drives you to do this stuff?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have 20 years operational experience in fintech or financial services. So, I always loved the industry. I understand. I worked in all areas of the industry, so I understand, quite well. I always loved technology as well. I love how I'm not the person that develops the platforms, but I love the innovation behind financial services and the technology that makes life easier to manage your assets. So that's where my passion is really this, and plus I have this experience and know-how about it. I like to identify opportunities in this sector, and with the goal of making it easy and more efficient for investors to manage their financial assets. How do we accomplish that?
I think, Ryan, I mean, when I look at the world of finance and where we are, how people are doing things today, and the potential of evolving it in the very near future, clearly we're at that kind of moment, I feel, where it's going to be very much disintermediated, changed, perhaps not in the way the crypto guys were originally going about it, but clearly we're, change is afoot. I look at so many new solutions and products that are being rolled out. But I mean, when you look at the future, Ryan, I never really like to talk about the long-term future, but the near future, what's your hope and what's on the horizon?
First off, for the future, from a personal perspective, my hope is my family, friends, and my colleagues are healthy, safe, and they achieve all their goals in life. But from my career perspective, I hope to, the continued success for Brewer Capital, and I'd like to build that business, the business up even bigger and better, and where we make enough money to continue investing in other projects that we have a passion for. It's an industry that's supported me and my family for over 20 years. So, I'd like to be able to give back and invest in the new financial technology that's coming out in the world in the future, and I want to be part of it.
Yeah, and I think, as I said, it's a great time to be in the space. I mean, Ryan, if there are companies out there that are hearing this that want to chat with you or other partners, where's the best place to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is a good place to find me. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Twitter as well. or go to our website, gurucapital.com. Send me an email, call me, as you wish.
Yeah. And I mean, Ryan, it's so great to talk to you today. I was in Switzerland last week and certainly saw a lot of fintech actions that were being taken in what is certainly a beacon for finance in general for the world. And certainly that's been a hot topic that we've seen around the world, whether it be, what's happening with ETFs or blockchain or some of these new consumer-based solutions and some of the spaces that you've talked about. But great to get the perspective of what Guru Capital is doing, and certainly a lot more to come, I can see. We've been chatting with Ryan Nettles. He is the managing partner at Guru Capital. They focus on really working on the M&A process in the fintech space, also obviously driving investment and investors and funding these companies as they emerge or evolve or rethink. I think that's probably fair. And then also looking at where those companies can find further growth. Ryan, thank you so much for being on the UNCAGED show today, and we look forward to having you back.
My pleasure. Thanks, Matt.
Cheers, Ryan.
Cheers. Bye.